I'm Lynn Schofield, Director of the ESLO Center for Journalism and New Media, and I'm pleased to have you here today. I'm glad that you've come to hear our speaker and recipient of the 2008 Anvil of Freedom Award, Renee Montagne of National Public Radio. This is the first time that a professional radio journalist has been nominated and is receiving the Anvil of Freedom Award. And actually, I learned that it's appropriate that she's receiving it on this date because it was April 17, 1919, exactly 89 years ago today, that the United States had its first public radio broadcast. Now, just to get a sense of how much radio has changed in the intervening 89 years, I wanted to read you the report of this first broadcast. It was reported in what I'm sure was a widely circulated newspaper at the time called Electrical Experimenter. So first I need to remind you that radio transmission had been used in the early 1900s primarily by military pilots during the First World War. The technology had been developed, in fact, for military use, and in fact, there had been a ban prohibiting citizens from listening to the radio transmissions. That ban had been lifted just 2 days before the first recorded broadcast. And the broadcast was actually transmitted from the Martin Company, which manufactured military airplanes and transmission equipment. So presumably they were operating under a wartime military authorization. But the First World War had ended, and what they broadcast was hardly military business. Here's what the newsletter, the Electrical Experimenter, reported. Cleveland, Ohio, or that portion equipped with wireless receiving instruments, heard its first wireless telephone concert on the night of April 17th, and it is to become a permanent institution. I just have to stop for a minute and say that as a journalism instructor, we would have definitely had our authors rewrite that. But every Thursday night, continuing with the Electrical Experimenter story, every Thursday night between 8 and 10 o'clock, the radio amateur who tunes his instrument to receive wavelengths of 375 meters will be able to listen to strains from Caruso and Sousa's band, interspersed with baseball scores and the latest news bulletins. The concert will come from the plant of the Martin Company and will be audible to wireless operators within 200 miles. Pretty good reception there. The wireless transmission of music is accomplished by use of wireless telephones. The same apparatus as is used in airplanes is employed, and the music produced by phonograph. The baseball news and bulletins are announced by voice, so that no knowledge of codes is required to receive them. The report estimated that there were 400 radio amateurs who listened into this first radio broadcast. Fortunately, we no longer need codes to receive radio broadcasts, although of course there are certain codes in the world of radio, such as, we'll be right back after this message, and of course, and it's time for our semi-annual pledge drive. But radio has come a long way in the past 89 years, and we're glad to celebrate and honor one of its most esteemed journalists today. And I wanted to recognize several of the noteworthy friends in the university here today before we continue. First, I'd like to recognize Ed and Charlotte Eslo, who are the ones who established this Eslo event and the Eslo Center, which hosts the event. Also, I'd like to thank John Temple for coming also, publisher and editor of the Rocky Mountain News. And I'd like to recognize John Edslin, who is president of the Colorado chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists, who's here today. There are also numerous professionals in film, television, print, online, and broadcast journalism, from Rocky Mountain News, Denver Post, Denver Open Media, Highwire Media, Eagle Ridge Media, the Documentary Cinema Institute, and more. Thank you all for being here today. I want to thank our sponsors as well while I'm up here, who are recognized by the signs on the table. But I also want to note our appreciation, especially for the Society of Professional Journalists, several of whose members have taken time out of their day to provide the leadership in our sessions, and especially to John Enslin, who helped to recruit all of these people who are local leaders in journalism, who will be with us today. I also want to thank the Cable Center for helping to make it affordable to have this wonderful event here. And thanks to Colorado Public Radio, which helped to promote the event and is also providing a workshop this afternoon on telling diverse stories. And here at the University of Denver, the Eslo Center, the School of Communication, the Center for Service Learning and Civic Engagement, Partners in Learning, the DU Programming Board, the student newspaper, The Clarion, all of them provided support. And also I want to give special thanks to Liz Wood and Chris Henning, who were really behind the scenes and managed much of this event. So thanks, and let's give a recognition to them. to introduce you to Gregg Kvistad, who is our provost here at the University of Denver. Provost Kvistad is the Chief Academic Officer of the university with administrative and budgetary responsibility for the colleges, schools, departments, libraries, centers, institutes, faculty, staff, and students here at the university. In broadcast terms, we'd say he's the executive producer of the university. Gregg has been at the University of Denver for 24 years, serving as chair of the Political Science Department for 6 years and Dean of Arts, Humanities, and Social Science Division for 7 years. Now here is our provost, Gregg Kvistad.